Hi, in this video we will be discussing the school structure and how to set it up in the ESOL purchasing system. As you will be able to see, the ESOL purchasing systems allow the school structure for each school to be dynamically created without any conflict, which ensures the data and the purchasing order there is no conflict between schools because each one of them will be dependent on their own structure. Let's dive in and start with that process. In order to get to the school structures, we need to go to schools and then we will find a tab called ESOL schools. This window is responsible for creating the new and even updating the status of each school individually. In order to create a new school, we will have to click on the button New School and then let's give it a code. Let's say test and let's say test school and give it a test address and a test number. And if we want to have a logo, you just click choose file and click a photo. If we don't, no problem. And once we click on submit, we'll be faced with the message that we need to enter the invoice address field. What is the invoice address field? It is the address that's assigned for each school in order to process their purchasing orders. So in order to do that, let's say test invoice address. And so once you click submit and exit, we are back to the window. Of course, this window is the same as all windows in the ESOL purchasing system. It will have to show the records that in use, not in use, and if we want to show all the records. Once, of course, there is the filter for the entries, as well as this text search. Once we do that, we can go and edit, if you want to edit any school. Let's say, for example, make it not in use by clicking the button in use and click submit and exit. So if we filter by not in use, it will show. If we choose by in use, it will not show. If we want to delete, let's try to delete this test school, we'll be faced with a notification message stating that this is if we're confirming the deletion or not. Once we click OK, it will process the order and delete the school from the list of schools for ESOL. Let's try to live sample with the schools. Once we click on that, you will see, like, for example, each school has its own registration and details. Let's say, for example, try the Cairo English School, the code, the name, the address, the telephone, the email address, the website, and even uploaded logo, and the invoice address. Each school has its own assigned invoice address. Let's say, for example, this one as well is a completely different one at the IS. Of course, it's best practice in order to create a code for each school to try to use the acronyms of each school. For example, let's say Cairo English School, which is CES. American International Schools of Egypt, AIS. American International School of Egypt West Camp is AISW. I think you get, and by that format, we can be able to identify each school with their code. Once we created the school dynamically, which is the establishment themselves, we need to create like the general sections. Of course, we are looking at it from a system admin view, and we show later once we start the school structure, each school will show its only structure assigned on the system to ensure there is no conflict, and we'll be even showing you a sample from the order size. So, first of all, most of schools have the non-academic administration, all sections, early years or middle or primary school, and secondary school. How do we create the section? We simply click on the new section button, the same as the other windows. We assign a code, a name, and a description. Let's, for example, take a sample, like for early years, for example. This, it's shown, as I said, code and name. It's better, of course, as we described before, to use the acronyms of the actual naming to make it easier for you to identify it and create the unique code for the sub-school or the section. So for non-academic administration is admin. All section, which is all year groups, AYG. Early years, EY. Middle, MID. PRI. Secondary, SEC. This is basically a small sample to try to give you the understanding of that. And as all windows, it has the records that in use, not in use, and show a records and the search filter, and the amount of entries and the paging as well. After that, we assign the year groups. we identify the main data, the main structure for the year groups, which is, for example, let's say AS A2, that's for British system, IB1, IB2, pre-K, Year 1, Year 2, Year 10, Year 11. And as you can see, there's a lot of details described. But if the stage or the year group name is very long, it's preferable as well to to try to keep it within the preferred acronym name, the guideline that we use, which is, for example, Foundation Stage 1 will be FS1, Kindergarten 1, which will be KG1. If we open the year group, it's assigned with a code and a name, simple as the section. Once we get back that and we assign the school sections and the school and the year groups, we need to assign the departments in order to process them within the order, because within each school, some schools will be using according to their department, some schools will be using according to the year group. So we need to make sure that we cover all necessary data that's assigned to an actual school. In this case, we are discussing the departments. So for example, biology will be BIO, business management will be BM, chemistry will be CHE, and so on and so on and so on, as you can see. There's a lot of options, and as the pair all of the windows, you can see the filters, amount of entries, the search button, and if you want to create a new department that is not there, we just simply need to create a new department, add the code as we described, name, and the description if you prefer. Once we assign all that, it's start right now to start creating the actual school structure per each school. So in order to do that, we need to click on School Structure and then click New Structure. In order to give it a description, let's say for example, it's preferable to make it as a sample code. Let's try a sample case. So if we click Edit, we're going to create the section for the early years, for example, for the American International Schools in Abu Dhabi. So AISA, and then for early years, this is the section that we're going to choose. Each code or each description is based on the school and it's divided sections. So let's say, for example, again, instead of early years, let's try middle. You will find that is American International Schools Abu Dhabi and Middle and Preparatory School. This will describe as AISA, MID. How do we create all the details? If we click after we create the description manually with our hands, like as a text, we go to school. Once we click on school, we can choose any school by searching in the search taskbar. Once we click on the school, we need to choose the section. So we have a lot of sections that we identified earlier, as you saw, and we can search on them, of course. And then we can add the year group. Let's say, for example, how do we add the year group? We can click on the text bar and try typing the year group that we want. Let's say, for example, A2. Now, A2 will be added to the list of year groups, and as you see, they are sorted alphabetically depending on each year group. So let's, for example, say that A2 is a secondary one, and we're right now discussing the preparatory school or the middle school. So we need to remove it. In order to do that, we need to click on the X button, and then go out, click Submit and Exit, and it's saved. As you can see, after we finalize the data, most of schools are already assigned with the year group and the section and the description and each school name. In order to search, for example, let's try Cairo English School as a sample, since we are on the subject as the side of Cairo English School in our test subject. So you will find that it has CES early years, describing early years section, and it has these year groups. Primary or elementary school has these year groups, same as high school or secondary, and it has all of these year groups. In which right now, after we get that done, this will show us exactly and reflect on the order when the purchase order for the teachers within Cairo English School, for example, do that. Or if we change the school by any other school, it will only show depending on each school and their sections and their departments, and it will show dynamically with no conflict within the order. We will be discussing later when we display the order and how it's placed within the system, and you will see that on a multiple school levels, there is no conflict because, as we discussed right now, it will show per each school structure created. Until the next video, I wish you a nice time.